Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I am on for my next project for Helmar, for the Helmar creative team, and I'm going to use their awesome Tacky Craft glue and their fabric glue today for my project. They're two of my favourites and I use them heaps and heaps. And I thought for the project I'm doing that they will work perfectly. So as per usual, I have put some tacky glue into my little plastic bottle here. It's got a nice fine tip on it, and the tacky glue works really well in this if I want to add glue to fine details. All right, so links to Helmar are down below if you want to go and check out their product. So we'll get on with it and see what we can make. It might be a little bit spooky. So I've got some black cardstock here, and I'm going to cut that down to 6 by 3.5 inches. And I've also got some grey cardstock which I'll be cutting down to 5.5 by 3 inches. So it's 6 inches by 3.5 inches for the black, and then 5.5 by 3 inches for the grey cardstock. Although I really just eyeballed it, so it's whatever size you want to do it. But you want your grey cardstock to be smaller than the black cardstock because we'll be doing some layered tags with them. So the next job is to grab out my scoreboard and just score each of my pieces at the halfway mark. Then we can fold those. So that's the basis for our two tags. They're both going to be pocket tags, hence why we fold them over. So we've got the two sides to create the pockets. So to make the tag shape, I'm just cutting the top corners off. I'm using the one corner and flipping it over and tracing it so I make sure I get the same angle on the other side. And then I'll use one of those corners to put onto my grey tag, and I can trace over that. And then I'll have similar corners for all of my tags. So you can see there how they'll go together. So you can see I've done some orange stitching on the black tag. I've just stitched the two sides that are going to be open there when we close it together. You'll see here where I'm applying glue to shut it. But initially I wanted to stitch on both sides of that open side. That way when we sew around the tag to close it, we can leave that pocket open. So I have some old Germanic text here, it's antique book page, and I'm just inking it up with some of my, I think it's Valenius Potion, yeah. Distress ink, get a bit of colour on it. And that's going to fit on the top of my grey tag, so I ripped it out to fit nicely on my grey tag with a bit of a border. I'm now going around the edges with some black ink, just grunging it up a little bit. Also use some black ink around the edges of my grey tag. Then I can stick my book page on the top. So this top tag will be opening to the right hand side, and the base tag I'm leaving open on the left hand side. I have some purple mesh that I want to layer up between the tags, and I've also got this gorgeous orange tulle. And I'm just using a bit of thread to pull together the base of it. I'm going to use that as a tab at the top of my tag there. And I just want to sort of bulk it up a bit at the base. So I just threaded my thread through so I could pull it a bit, and I'm just tying it off in a knot at the base. So don't mind my rough bandaged hand there. I had a bit of a bad wrist, so I had to just bandage that up so I could do this, although I gave up for a few days afterwards until it got better because I couldn't squeeze the glue. So I'm using the fabric glue here just to attach my tulle. Now the top tag will cover up the base of this, so I'm just using a little bit of the glue to just tack it down. So now I'm applying the glue there so that I can put my mesh on. This glue is great for that because it really needs a good strong glue to hold that mesh on. So that glue will be covered up by my top tag, so I wasn't too worried about how it looked. So now I've cut some purple cardstock and black cardstock to make little journal cards that will fit in both of my tags. And I've also punched some little tabs out as well. Just figuring out my placement for my tabs once the journal cards are in their pockets, and then I can stick them down. So I'm using the tacky glue here to stick these down. It works really well with paper on paper for this sort of thing. It does what it says. It gets tacky very quick. So you can see there I'm doing some splattering. It's with iridescent purple spray that I have here. And I'm just splattering my book page pieces. I did rip another couple out and ink them up there for my journal cards. Now I'm going over with some black iridescent spray that I have. And then just dabbing them off a bit so they dry quick because I'm impatient. So now I want to do some embossing of my die cut pieces. So I've die cut heaps of spooky bits and pieces. I have these skeletons. So I've decided to emboss them with this chunky, it's a silver and black sort of embossing powder, which looks really cool. So I'm just pressing them into my Versamark ink to make them nice and wet. And then my embossing powder will stick to that. So when that's done, I put them aside and then tip the excess powder back into the pot. So now I have some really fine black embossing powder here that I want to do the tombstones with, and my bats and cat and letters and other little bits and pieces there. So just using the same process of pressing them in the ink and then tipping the powder all over them so they get a nice even coating. I do move the die cut pieces around on the ink a bit just to make sure I get them covered nicely and press them down. So again, I just tip the excess powder back into the jar once I've done. That's why I like to have a folded bit of paper there because it makes it a lot easier to tip the powder back in. So now I've got my heat tool and I'm just melting the embossing powder on all of my pieces. That's the fun part, seeing how they sort of change. So you can see the silver glistening on the skeletons there. So using the fabric glue to stick these really thin pieces of the book page down, because if you use tacky glue for really thin bits like that, it can sort of, the lumps of it can show underneath if it dries a bit before you get them together. You learn bit by bit what glue is best for what sort of material. So just corner rounding my journal cards, but I realised since I put the tabs on first that I can't reach one of the corners. Oops. So I'm just using my scissors to do a real rough corner there. So now I've got this witch's hat that I die cut, and I'm using my gel pen just to colour in the little sort of, what do you call it, a sash that goes around the hat there. I cut that out of purple cardstock to layer on top of the black one. And I have embossed the little buckle there too, which looks, so it makes it look like plastic or metal buckle. Also colouring in some of my pumpkins with my gel pen. So they're glitter gel pens, so they have a nice glisten to them. So now I can layer my hat to pieces together. So I've got the little sash there that I'm sticking on first. And again, the tacky glue is really good for your little fine details. I love putting it into one of those little fine tip applicator bottles, and then you can easily apply it to all these little pieces, which I'm very thankful for. Adhere my buckle, and the hat looks really cool. So I've got my embossed cat here, and I want to stick him down on my journal card. Just working out the placement of my pieces. There's a white gel pen there that I'm using just to add eyes to the cat and to define his leg there. So now I can stick down my skeleton. Now there are missing limbs, but I didn't want to have to fit limbs on here, there and everywhere, so I'm just doing a few arms. Then got legs on one of them. The skeletons are so much fun to play with. So I will link the die sets that I've used down below in case you're interested in looking them up, because it was heaps of fun. I think I used 3 different die sets for all the bits and pieces. So I've got these beautiful bats that I want to add as well. Now, I haven't put his arm down yet. I don't think I have heat embossed that arm yet. I wasn't sure which ones I wanted, so I will have to do a little bit more heat embossing afterwards just to finish those pieces off. So I'm just cutting the web out of the square there because I think it will look a lot better on my other journal card. And I found another arm that I thought would go good with this skeleton. And I've grabbed my purple glitter gel pen there just to add some nice glistening pieces to the spider web. Makes it look like it's a bit wet. And I can stick that down. You can see how easy having the fine tip applicator allows you to put the tacky glue all over those little pieces. I had so much trouble sticking these fine details down and having such a mess with the glue prior to finding a glue that would go nicely into those little bottles. So I've got my little pumpkins here. They're the ones I've coloured in with the orange glitter pen. These base pieces are cut out, but obviously the circle on them isn't really going to fit the tag, so I'm just ripping it down so it will fit nicely at the bottom there. The main aspect I wanted was the tombstones in that. Figuring out how my skellies are going to fit. They're missing half their bodies, but that's okay. And I just want to cut the pumpkins out of that other part to use. Going over the lines in that little pumpkin with my gel pen. Stick the skeleton down first because I want to get his placement right before I put the tombstones down. So the black underneath shows through the eyes and the mouth of the pumpkin now, which looks good. I was debating whether to add black die cut bits to those areas, but because I had the black background, I didn't need to. So I found an extra little pumpkin to stick underneath there where it was cut a bit rough on that pumpkin, on the bigger pumpkin. So I thought if I put the tree behind the skeleton, we're not going to see it much. So I thought it would be better up further. I liked the placement when I tried it out just before, but then when I actually stick my skeleton down, it looks like the tree's grown out of his head. But oh well, you can't have everything. It will do. Some people have such a natural eye for placement, and it's not something that I have. It takes me a bit of work. So I've got this little tiny pumpkin that I want to try and fit in his hand. So I'm adding a bit of glue so I can get his fingers to hold it where I want it. And of course I need a couple more bats. They stand out so nicely with that fine embossing powder on them. So I've just grabbed a black, I think it's a metallic gel pen, and I'm just doing some lines around the edge of my tag there. Got these two little tags that I die cut, and I'm going to stick those together. I like the look of the orange behind the purple there. And again, I'm just going around the edges with the black gel pen. I then decide to go around the edges with an orange gel pen and a purple gel pen. They're the glitter ones too, so it really highlights the edges. And I've got the word boo there and this bat that I'll decorate these tags with. Oh, I had so much trouble with that word. Kept losing all the little bits. Now I've got to go and find the dot because I lost it. And then I find the dot under the skeleton's shoulder there. That was a lucky find. I was just about ready to go and cut another dot. It's annoying when you have to go drag the die cutter out just to do something like that little dot. And I heat embossed that, and I did not want to do that again. It was so fiddly. So just going around the edge of my journaling cards as well with gel pens. Now I've ended up embossing the couple of arms that I hadn't embossed before, and the spider, which I lost somewhere. I cut another one of those out and embossed him as well. So they're ready to add. Had so much fun playing around with my dies. I have heaps of dies. I've started using dies a lot more now. I'm looking forward to using all of my dies more. So this was a lot of fun to do. Thought I'd make it look like the skeleton is patting the cat or trying to pull his tail. So I can put a hole the whole way through that tag because the journal card won't go all the way up to where the angles are. So I've put a purple eyelet in there so I can dangle my little tag from that. I have this black paper from an old diary or something that has white lines on it, which is great fun to use for Halloween projects. And I back this big tag and both my journal cards with that so that there's lots of writing space. Now I can stick the two tags together, again using my fabric glue, nice and strong, and it's a nice thickish glue as well, so it's going to stick them together over the mesh. So I'll give it a nice generous coating. And you can see that that holds down the tab that we did with the tulle as well, really well. So I did go around and apply pressure to that for a while to make sure it dried nicely together. Then I can stick both of my journal cards in the tag pockets. And we've got our little tag there, and I just found some of my scrap twine. It's like a white cotton with some silver tinsel wound around it. So I'm just using that to attach my little tag. So I've finished my little project for Helmar for this month. And I used the Tacky Craft glue and the fabric glue, two of my favourites, to do this project. I knew that they would work perfectly for what I wanted to do. So I made a cool Halloween card. I have a lot of dies. I don't have much experience with die cuts and doing things with them, so I thought it'd be fun to pull out my Halloween dies, mix them up a bit and make a tag. So it's basically a layered tag that has two pockets in it. And I have put journaling spots on the background of all of my pieces because the tags I make will go into journals. So I did some heat embossing on some of the pieces and I love the way it turned out. I just thought that the skeletons would stand out more if I did some heat embossing on them. So I used a chunky embossing powder for that. And then a smoother one for the bats and the tombstones. And I did use my gel pens. I did do some lines on the tree which are really faint, just to add a bit of texture to that as well. And I did colour in my pumpkins and add some lines and that with my glitter gel pens. I love the way it turned out. I had some of this mesh. I think it's for floristry mesh. And I've got a roll of it here, so it was great to be able to start using that up a bit. Did some sewing with some orange and black thread. I thought that would look good. And with both my tag pieces, I sewed down the edges that I wanted to keep open before I sewed the other edges because they sewed it shut, of course, and I wanted these edges to be open. But I still wanted the stitched look there. Used some of this beautiful tulle that I have. Love the colour of it and made a little tag tab with that. Then inserted an eyelet to put these two little tags with the word boo. You probably saw I lost my little dot after I had embossed it. I was looking for it everywhere and I found it stuck under one of my skeleton's shoulders. So at least I found it. I was looking everywhere for that. Didn't want to have to die cut another one and emboss it and everything. So yeah, so as I said, backed with my black lined paper to be written on. And then in the big tag at the back we have this journal card. I've used some antique Germanic text on them and I did some splatters with some of my iridescent sprays. Some black and some purple, and I love the way that turned out. And again, I embossed some of the bits and pieces. I coloured the purple part of the witch's hat in with my glitter gel, and I love the way that's turned out. I don't know how well you can see it. But yeah, I love it. And then I embossed the little buckle Looks really cool. And of course I embossed the cat. Then I just used my white gel pen to add his eyes in. And again, more journaling space there. And I just punched the tabs out. I have a punch there that does those, which is handy. So that slips into the tag at the back. Then we just stuck the other smaller tag on the top here. And this skeleton's holding a pumpkin. Now you might have noticed that my skeletons have lost limbs, but that's all right. Couldn't be bothered trying to fit them around, and I thought it would be a bit too much, too busy, and trying to get the right angles for them and that. So, and I figured that skeletons, you know, they lose limbs. They get taken away by animals and stuff like that. So now my second journal card comes out of that pocket. I embossed the spider there. I used glitter gel on the spider web, so it's just got a bit of glitter. I don't know how well you'll see that. Nice hint of glimmer in it. And then this skeleton that's, I don't know, talking to the spider maybe. That was so much fun to use all the die cuts like that and do the embossing on them. And I really loved the way the tag turned out in the end. So thank you to Helmar for the awesome glues. I absolutely love using them. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Halloween, whether you do anything for it or not. I hope you have a great time. So what I'll try and do is list the dies that I used down below, just in case you want to see if you can find them at any stage, because they were a lot of fun to use. There's also links below to Helmar if you want to go and check out their awesome glues and other product. So take care of yourselves, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.